May, the aristocratic Madame Rensky, her daughter Anya, and their servants Yash and Charlotte returned to their family's ancestral estate in the Russian countryside from Paris. A coterie of friends, family members, and neighbors anxiously await their arrival. Among them, Rensky brother Geff, her eldest daughter Barbara, and her neighbors Lepekin and Pischik. Rensky is thrilled to be home after 5 years abroad, but is greeted by the sad news that unless she finds a way to pay off the interest on the estate by the end of August, the property and expansive cherry orchard that covers much of it will be auctioned off to the highest bidder. Lofkin urges Rensky to chop down the cherry orchard, divide the land up into parcels, and rent them out acre by acre to upwardly mobilize members of the emerging middle class or villa residents. But Rensky will hear nothing of this plan. Instead, she lends out money she does not have to Pischik and tumbles back into memories of her painful exit 5 years ago, spurred by the death of her youngest child, Grisha, who drowned at only 7 years old. As the house comes back to the life, the servant Dunsya and Afikov of navigate an awkward romance. Elderly butler first, who has taken to mumbling incoherently to himself, rejoices in his mistress' return. Gave schemes of ways to secure money through borrowing and back channels. Barbara wonders whether she will ever get a proposal from Lopakin, who has been rumored to be considering asking her hand in marriage for several months now, and the savvy scholar Trofimos, who once served as tutor to the deceased Girisa, longs quietly for the beautiful young Anya. In the second act, the family servants enjoy a day out in open fields behind the house. Despite the beautiful weather and the appearance of a friendly gathering, Charlotte, Yasha, Dunsha, and Effie Hod all harbor their own pain and misery, which they can only air to one another, and even then, their need for connection and exorcism of their private demons all seem to fall on deaf ears. Dunsiad avoids the suicidal Efikov, having fallen for cruel, affected Yasha. Instead, Charlotte, the stateless child of circus performers, laments that she is all alone in the world. Rensky Gaff and Lopakin, having come from a luxurious and unaffordable lunch in town, return to the estate and linger in the fields with a wife. Lopakin warns Rensky that rumors of potential buyers are swirling and urges her to reconsider his idea about chopping down the cherry orchard, but she will not hear his vulgar proposal. Tromphimov, Anya, and Barbara join the gathering in the field. Tromphimov lectures everyone on the intellectual and social problems facing modern day Russia, such as lazy, snobbish intelligentsia and the lack of honest and decent, hard-working individuals. When a tramp comes along, the begs money of Rensky, she hands him a valuable gold coin as he does not have any a smaller chin. Barbara, angry that her mother is giving away money to bums when there is barely enough food back up at the house, angrily heads home. Everyone but Anya and Trompiov follows her. Anya confesses to Trompiov that while she once loved the cherry orchard dearly, she now feels nothing when she looks at it. Trofimov suggests that Anya has realized the pain and suffering of generations of unpaid laborers, once tasked with maintaining the orchards, and is sympathetic to the plight of the working class. hinders Anya to throw her house keys down the well, and Anya excitedly agrees that she should. Trumpimov predicts that despite the struggles he has faced in his life, happiness is fast approaching. Barbara calls for Anya to come up to the house, but instead she scampers away to the river with Trumpimov. In Act 3, it is August and Rensky had arranged for a lavish dinner party, complete with a Jewish band of musicians and lots of dancing. She has orchestrated the party to distract from her anxiety in town far away. The auction for Cherry Orchard is taking place, and Gabe and Lopkin have not yet returned with news of whether the property was sold or sold. Over the course of dinner party, the servants, notably Dunsya and Efikov, act like guests themselves, incurring the ear of Barbara, who wants to for them to remember their place. Rensky confides in Trumpioff the details of her miserable relationship with her ex-lover, who writes to her nearly every day and is like a heavy but beautiful stone around her neck. Trumpioff states that he is above love, but Rensky mocks him, calling him a freak for denying his feelings for Anya. Eventually, Gabe enters the drawing room crying. Rensky asks him what happened at the auction, but he refuses to answer and heads upstairs to change. Moments later, a gleeful Lopkin hops into the room where Rensky asks him whether the cherry orchard was sold. He replies that it was, and when she asks him who bought it, he answers that he himself was the highest bidder. Lofkin brags about how far he, the son of lowly peasants, has come to the world and looks forward to building a new life for the middle classes on the land where the orchard now stands. Rensky begins sweeping Anya kneels before her and comforts her, promising that they will soon plant a new orchard somewhere even lovelier. In the fourth and final act, the house is bare and packed up. A large pile of luggage sits in the corner of the nursery. Rensky and her family are hurriedly and tearfully preparing to leave. They are taking a train out of town in less than an hour. As everyone hurries around, packing at the last minute, Lofkin attempts to serve champion to celebrate his ownership of the estate. Faust, meanwhile, has fallen ill and has been sent to the hospital for treatment, according to Yash. As Rensky, Gav, Anya, and Barbara bid goodbye to their home, the sound of axes chopping down the cherry tree rumble in the distance. Anya begs Lopkin to wait until they have left, at least before he and his men begin dismantling, dismantling their family's pride and joy. Rensky, in a moment alone with Lopakin, begs him to at last propose to Barbara. He consents. Rensky calls Barbara into the room and then leaves so that the two can be alone. They wildly discuss the weather until Lopkin is called outside by one of his workers. Lopkin does not propose to Barbara and she collapses near the luggage in tears. Rensky helps Barbara collect herself and suddenly states that it is time for the entire family to start out on a new journey. As Anya and Trompioff bid a happy goodbye to the old house, Rensky and Gabe linger inside a moment longer, bidding their youth and happiness goodbye before locking up and leaving. After everyone has gone, an ill-looking First emerges from next room. He has been left behind and forgotten. He sits on the sofa and laments his wasted life. He lies down and appears to die as the sounds of axes chopping down the nearby cherry trees start up again. The cherry orchard themes social change. The central theme of cherry orchard is that of social change. Written in the early 1900s, the play depicts a Russia on brink of revolution. As the aristocracy's power wanes, former serfs experience freedom and burgeoning middle class takes root. The central characters of the play, representative of the upper, middle, and the lower classes, find themselves struggling to negotiate their relationship, loyalties, and anxieties about the changing socio-economic landscape of their country. Loss, grief, and class. One of the most profound themes in Chekhov's The Cherry Orchard is loss from Madame Rensky, her brother Gaif, and her daughters Barbara and Anya, loss of their ancestral home. To Rensky, lingering grief over the death of her youngest son Grisha. To Efikov, resigned acceptance of his daily misfortunes. Every character within the play, even the minor ones, is struggling with feelings of loss, grief, and pain. In suffusing each character's story, love and sentimentality. Many of the characters in the Cherry Orchard are shown to be actively fighting against or struggling to contain feelings of love and sentimentality as play goes on. The radical Peter Trumpiov believes himself above love, even though he harbors unresolved feelings for Anya. Barbara is passively waiting on the proposal from the wealthy Lopkin, a proposal that may never come. Dunsha longs to prove herself sentimental lady in order to appeal to selfishness. The cherry orchard Chekhov places the worst human impulses under a rather unforgiving microscope. The play sets up a tense, dramatic situation. Madame Rensky and her family will lose their ancestral home if they do not parcel off their cherry orchard and rent it out to their neighbors, which then unfolds over the course of several months as Rensky poor spending habits, her neighbor Lopkins in high and ambition, and her servants and daughters. The Cherry Orchard's characters, Madame Lubov, Andrina Ransky, in many ways the play's main protagonist. Madame Ransky is the head of the family's estate, although she has over the 5 years led them and the property into financial ruin. Drift, a spendthrift with Yermolai Alexich Lopkin, a middle-class neighbor of Madame Rensky. Lopkin is the child of peasants who has recently made his way in the world and acquired quite a bit of wealth. When Lopkin was a boy, Madame Rensky's youngest daughter Anya is 17 years old, and like many Chekhov's young and genuine characters, a dreamer. She feels that happiness is just on horizon, despite the intense financial and social problems. Barbara Re- Rensky's eldest daughter Barbara has been in charge of keeping house during the 5 years Rensky has in Paris. Barbara is a staunch, stoic, and no nonsense. She is eternally waiting on a proposal. Leonid Andrich Geff, Rensky's brother, is a gregarious, sentimental man who talks too much, always gossiping about somebody or waxing poetic about a feeling, a phrase, or even a piece of furniture. Geff largely functions as comic character. Peter Trompioff is the perpetual student who once worked as a tutor to Madame Ransky's youngest child, Grisha, before the boy passed away suddenly at the age of 7, just little over 5 years. First, Nikolovich. First is the extremely elderly butler whose staunch allegiance to Ransky and gave a lamentation of the fact that serfs were over liberated from their land owning masters. It represents the inability of the eldest members of the family. Charlotte Ionova. Inova's governess Charlotte is quirky woman of few words. She carries a gun and performs parlor tricks such as card tricks, ventriloquism, and illusions despite her ability to brighten a room. Though Charlotte, this is about the social and financial condition of the families, which how they affect the family. This is the main theme of the